paddle tail. It's not an easier bait. What makes a paddle tail so easy and so good to use is you can run it across the surface, you can run it subsurface, you can run it deep, you can run it shallow. These are all little guys here, but it's just a cast and retrieve. I mean, there's not much to it. It's a jig head and a piece of plastic. Cast and reel. Cast and reel. And you get at a spot like this, you literally catch a fish every single cast this time of year. The sea trout this morning. Right there next to the boat. These are all slot fish here. Most of them. What's up, everybody? We're out here at low tide fishing some oyster flats south of St. Augustine, and just gonna throwing paddle tails today. These are the easiest baits in the world to use. Just throw it out there and reel it in. You don't got to jig it, you don't got to twitch it, you don't got to do anything. The tail, it's got built-in action. The tail does all the work, so it goes through the water and it just swims through the water. You can fish it shallow, you can fish it deep. If you're fishing it shallow, you cast, and as soon as it hits the water, start reeling. If you're fishing it deep, throw it out there, let it sink for a few seconds, and then start reeling. You just do a slow retrieve, a fast retrieve. You know, the fish will dictate what they want. If you're not getting anything, you know, running it real slow through the water, speed up your retrieve, and vice versa. If you're running it fast, you're not getting anything, slow it down. As the water temperature drops, the fish slow down, so you're going to want to slow down your retrieve anyway throughout the winter months. Hey, bud. Hey. Calm down. My passenger, you know, he doesn't always listen. But anyway, paddle tail is probably the easiest, most simple bait to use in the saltwater if you're going to use artificials. It's a good confidence bait. It's a good bait to throw whether you're brand new at it or you've been doing it your whole life like me. I throw a paddle tail all the time. If I'm fishing a tournament, I'm throwing a paddle tail. I'm covering water with it. You know, just keep on casting, and you know, I may make, you know, 300 or 400 casts with this thing, maybe more, 700 casts in a day, 800 casts in a day. Who knows? But I'm going to catch fish the entire day. We'll catch fish all day on this. And one cool thing about paddle tails is you don't have to cut and retie to get a different looking bait. You know, we have a blue body on this one, but if I wanted to switch it out to a clear body, I could just, you know, real simply pop it off the jig head. You know, this is an Ancient City paddle tail. Ancient City Outdoors. You just run it on, and you've changed the entire look of the bait in 30 seconds or less. Real simple. So they're just a good universal bait. You can use them in the saltwater and the freshwater. Doesn't matter if you're in Florida or Africa, they're gonna catch fish no matter where you're throwing them at. So go on out there and, you know, build up some confidence with some paddle tails. And if you're already a confident fisherman, then you already know the value of a paddle tail. I'm sure you already throw it. So they're just a good all-around bait. I'm done talking now. I want to go back to start catching some more fish. So appreciate you all watching, and we'll go catch some more fish on these paddle tails. Yep. Sure do. 14's through about 16. Yeah, I've caught my limit already if I was keeping fish. It's not very deep in here, so you don't gotta let it sink very far. And throwing a paddle tail, I always like to throw, just like with everything else I'm doing, I like to throw into the current and kind of just reel it back slowly with the current. To adjust your depth, you can let it sink a little bit, or you can reel it a little faster. If you let it sink, it'll obviously go deeper. If you reel it faster, it'll obviously come up to the top. Just missed one right there. But one of the most important things you got to remember on a soft plastic is to make sure your plastic isn't failed. If your plastic's failed, they're not going to hit it. And that happens whenever they grab it and pull the tail down. And after you get several fish on it, like I've caught probably 8 or 10 fish on this one piece of bait, it's probably about time to switch it out. But we'll keep rolling with it for a little bit. Trout ski. Next to the boat. Not normal. I throw a red jig head no matter what body's on there for the most part. If I've got to throw a different color, I'll go white next, and then I'll go chartreuse. But whenever fish get stressed, their lips turn red. Yep. That's my theory anyway. I think a red jig head gives it a weak look. So, very well maybe snook. Off that grass bed over there. That's what you always say, but you never do. That's a little guy there. Yeah. One. paddle tail baits are so easy to use. Just a cast and reel. You'll catch fish. You'll build confidence if you're not using, if you haven't used artificials. They're a good confidence bait. They're easy to use and they catch a lot of fish. There's one right there. I'm fishing a little channel here. It's a little bit deeper than the surroundings, so I give it a couple seconds of pause there. I missed him. A couple seconds of a little sink there to let it get a little bit deeper. Then I'm just giving it just a slow, steady retrieve. Nothing fast. Let's try to see if we can get out there. We got fish. Deeper water, you let it sink for a few seconds, and then just a slow, steady retrieve here. That's all you got to do. Feel the thump, set the hook. I got see, I'm missing the hook set here. Check your body. Make sure your body doesn't slide down the bait, the hook. Grab it by the tail, they'll pull it down the hook. Trout will almost always be on a transition. So fishing along oyster beds, you have a lot of options of transitions. There's transitions all over the place, but a trout will almost always be on some sort of transition. And just because we got transitions with oyster beds, if you're fishing grass beds like in South Florida, your transition may just be, there's one right there, right next to the boat. Your transition may be just a pocket in the grass, maybe a sandy spot in the grass that is just different from the surrounding, and the grass actually provides the transition. It's not actually an elevation change. So transition is a loosely used term that could just be a pocket in some grass providing what the fish are looking for. So here we're fishing oyster transitions down into flats and channels, and they're just kind of sitting off the edges of them and around the points of them, and it's pretty common in this area. It's a good way to target at low tide. Of course, at high tide you can't see the oyster beds, but at high tide they're still there. You just gotta fish over the top of them. Fish at the high tide will probably be sitting on top of the oyster beds or right off the edge of them. At low tide they can't be on top, so they got to be off the edge. But they're sitting out there. Another one here. There's another one. Not a bad one there. Let me get the net out for this one. That's a redfish. redfish. There's one. Another Trotsky. Let it sink and slow it down. Good one. Little guy. If he's fishing over here, we're in the right spot. I don't think they've had the luck that we're having, though. There's one. There's a good one. Yeah, there we go. Right out there in that flow. That's all it is figuring out what the fish want. Sometimes they want it high, sometimes they want it low, sometimes they want it fast, sometimes they want it slow. You just got to work your baits until you figure out what they're looking for. Well, y'all, there you have it. Bunch of trout, lots and lots of trout. Today they were wanting it deep and slow, so we were letting it sink, then starting out just a slow retreat back in. But paddle tails are a killer way to hit the water and a real easy way to hit the water and catch a lot of fish. But like I said earlier, whether you're a seasoned pro or a brand new angler, throwing one of these will catch you fish. So, you know, today we were throwing Hackney baits. There's a ton of brands out there, but don't get overwhelmed by that. You know, you go to a tackle shop or something, there'll be a whole wall of soft plastics, and you say, well, which one do I pick? Well, pick one that looks natural. Although this blue is not a natural color, there's a lot of fish that have blue in it, so it's kind of it falls in that realm. White. You know, I mean, every single paddle tail, the color of it will work in certain scenarios. So there's not a bad color. There's better colors for scenarios. So in the wintertime, I like throwing these blues and some clears, you know, some different whites. Had some clears here from Ancient City Outdoors. You know, those are a good option. They're a little smaller profile bait, so they're you know, if the fish are hitting a smaller bait, throw one of those on. I hope this video helped you all and get a couple tips out of it and improve your artificial game. Get out there and throw some paddle tails. Let me know how you do. Thanks for watching. We'll see you out there.